I played 40 chess games today, and we're gonna go over all 40 of them. Just kidding. But we're gonna go over a good amount of them. Not the entire games, but I just wanted to show you guys. Here you see February 26th. It just keeps going. Boom, 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 boom. You could count that. You could pause and count, but that's 40 games. I didn't realize until after I went into insights on chess.com, and it actually showed more information. But anyway, the first game here was a beautiful Vienna. And this is the first game after the other set of games. There was a big time difference between them. But anyway, this is the first game. It was a beautiful Vienna, but I messed up a little bit. So first I attacked the knight, and my opponent did something I've never seen someone do, which is attack like this. Not like I've seen the Vienna a billion times, but I've never seen someone do this. You're not supposed to take here because then I could push attacking the knight. And the knight is forced back and it like undevelops your pieces. I've seen one person come here, but then it allows my queen to come here and the knight has to go back anyway. This person brings the bishop and I just take his knight and I check. And I try to get into the position and I finally move the king aside. Because in the Vienna, I finally do this in a game. A lot of times you're not castling. Sometimes you castle this way to get the rook and queen on this file. But a lot of times you're forced to move the king to the side, and then it's safe there. And after this check, my opponent resigned. So that was a cool game. This game I was trying to be tricky, which isn't really smart. And really the biggest mistake was just not getting my king here. My king is super safe here. This is an open file for my rooks to take advantage of, and it just like looks super cool. Instead of that, I went for trading bishops, which wasn't necessary, and trying to put pressure here. I ignored the queen's threat here, like an idiot. I let him take my rook. I saw that, so I could defend with my knight, and I thought I could get into the position like this. Very stupid. I thought I could break open his position. Like this. And then after here, there was nothing I could do. You could see the game just kind of breaks apart. So, not a good idea, but it was still fun. Here I had a tricky move missed, and then my opponent blundered. That's what I wrote as the note. The tricky move missed was this. Because I have a fork picking up the queen. How crazy of a move is that? I didn't see that. Instead, I attacked the bishop this way to force it back, and I got my knight out of danger. And I was losing. I was losing because I'm down 2 pawns, and it's very hard to come back, but I pick up the rook. My knight was just super nice on f6. The interesting thing here is I felt like this was a bad move, but I didn't know what else to do with this knight. Apparently, I'm not very bright. I had a en passant. You always have to take en passant, but I was losing there anyway, so not much to be said. Towards the end of the game, though, my opponent makes a mistake right here. And I get super lucky. I have this crazy attack, and he takes, thinking that, you know, I'm gonna take... I don't know what he was thinking, actually. Maybe he thought I would take the queen and then get checkmated. But I took with the check, and that's it. He loses his queen. And I end up winning this game. And I don't know how I missed taking a free bishop, but I end up winning this game. He resigns. You know? Next game is a counter to the fried liver. For those who haven't seen it, check out a Chess Vibes video. The title is something like 400,000 people fell for this trick. And it's true. So many people fall for this trick. So typically in the fried liver, opponent wants to attack with the knight and bishop on the f7 pawn and be very annoying. One way to avoid that, the book move that's most popular, I believe, is not at this point, but is to push the pawn and then bring the knight here, attacking the bishop, because the bishop no longer looks at f7 and the game continues. I don't really know the lines there, but this move is a lot more interesting because people will just continue on with their plan. And this is how you kind of deal with it. People think, oh, this move is great. You're forking the rook and queen. You move the queen's side. Now you're threatening some big stuff, which you'll see soon. You take the pawn, forcing the rook to move aside, and now the king is cramped. You come in with the check, and if this knight wasn't here, you would have had checkmate. But in this case, the knight is there, so it's not checkmate. But I saw this other trick. There's just so many tricks here because his position is so cramped. There's nothing going on. You could, and I noticed this also today in one of my later games. When you set the conditions right, when your pieces are more developed, a lot of tactics and like good positions just rise out of that. So this is an example. I didn't know that this was a move. This wasn't even the best move. I could have taken the knight, which I considered, but taking here forks the king, and he has to take with the queen and lose his queen. So after that, he attacks my queen, and I attack his bishop. And the plan is I can very easily get out of any tricks here. I could even take this, threatening the rook, but he could just develop. So very cool, very cool. Next, we have a Sicilian. And with the Sicilian, a common theme in the Sicilian is to fork the king and the rook with a knight. Now, I don't play the best moves here. My opponent just blunders the queen capture. But the idea here was to attack the bishop, and after takes and takes, my pawn structure is fine. And yeah, actually, the knight thing we're gonna see a little later on. I don't know why I mentioned it. Why is grinding endgames important? One might think. Well, a game could be very even like this game. Look how long this game goes on. This is looks like Vienna. I didn't pay attention from the beginning, but just from this, it looks like a Vienna. I tried to get into the position and I really couldn't. And oh yeah. This game was pretty crazy. We both made mistakes, but nothing too insane in the middle of the game. Throughout all of this was all normal stuff, going back and forth, trying to find a place to break through. And finally, he brings his rook here. So I take. And the idea here is that, well, he can't push his pawn, and maybe I have an idea to push and get a queen, but I just felt like I was better off here. Apparently, it was even. But why is grinding endgames good? Look at this. He doesn't really have too many moves. I think if he goes here, maybe it's an even game. He moves his pawn forward instead, allowing me to come here, and then he moves his king forward. This king forward move doesn't do anything because I could still take the pawn. But actually, it's still even. And here's the moment. I'm going to show you guys the moment in a second. Think about this. You're playing 75 move game, okay? It's move 67, and you blunder. You blunder because you didn't study endgames. For those that don't know, this is a very typical endgame where the king always has to be in front of the pawn to stop it from promoting. So in this, and there's also something called opposition, for those that don't know, when the kings are directly across from each other, so something like this, or like this, whoever went in front of the other first, so in this case, if white went to g5, he takes the opposition, and that's a good thing to do. What does it mean? Basically, the kings can't pass each other. When two kings are in front of each other, the three squares in front of them can't be passed. So that's a very powerful thing you could take advantage of in the endgame. Anyway, here he blunders because if he went back, then I can't do anything to get into this position. If I push the pawn, he takes it. If I push my king, opposition. He takes opposition. And it looks like, oh, what if you check? Well, then I just go back to the side. Now he has to stay. He has to go here to protect the pawn. But the problem with that is I have no legal moves, right? So that's how you get the... Hopefully that kind of made sense for those that don't know. And for those that do, hopefully it wasn't too boring. Anyway, instead of that, he moves back, allowing me to take the opposition myself. See, opposition is when there's one square away so that the opponent cannot go on any square forward, right? So this prevents the king from going here. He goes to the middle, but the problem here is that now I can push the pawn because he has an escape square. And I just queen, and it took a little bit longer, but I could have blocked off the king's axis to going this way and then whatever. But so that was that game. That's why endgames are important to study. I probably should study more, but that's like a simple type of thing. Here I had a plan to just simplify and pick up a pawn. So I simplify. I intentionally take this rook instead of that rook because it doesn't activate the king more, and it puts his rook in a corner, and it lets me come in and take control of the back row here, which is super important in endgames. In this case, earlier on, I could have targeted this pawn, which is why I didn't make the best moves. but the idea still stands. His king tries to become active, and I bring pieces into the game. He loses a pawn, and I actually think about this. You don't want to get checkmated like this, right? But he can't checkmate me. The pawn blocks any checkmate, and my pawn defends any checkmate this way. Anyway, he brings the rook back, I guess, to protect that pawn. I check, I pick up a pawn, and he resigns. So, very cool stuff. Staring into a pawn. Not a good idea. But that's what I do here. I realize it's not that good, but I don't see a way to protect this pawn against the knight, which is why I moved this bishop. I'm not aggressive enough personally, and maybe you guys are like this too. Sometimes I don't see counterattacks very well. So this was my best move. Now, if he attacks the bishop, I can take. I double his pawns, and I could probably even castle and have this attack that's very common in the Vienna, which we mentioned earlier. And this looks pretty good. You know, I really like that light squared bishop because it puts eyes on the king, but I mean, this is a better position. Instead of that, I push my bishop to stare into a wall, and now it's hard to defend everything. And you'll see, it kind of falls apart. It falls apart because he's up a pawn, and he has a lot of direction. He has a lot of he has the queen and bishop staring into my position, and I couldn't find a way to deal with it. I give up another pawn, and it's just looking terrible. It's looking terrible. I'm able to pick up a rook here, which is kind of cool, because if he moves the rook aside, I would have had a checkmate threat, but he could push this pawn, giving the queen eyes on that, which he saw. But this is still lost, and I thought I had a chance here. This actually would have equalized the position by not trading queens, very important. I could also potentially have eyes on this in the future. I'm also threatening mate. That's probably the big thing, which is why he would be forced to go back. Oh, I'm not threatening mate. Wait, he has this escape score. Never mind. This is threatening mate. Very interesting, actually. I'm not entirely sure why. I guess my rook is in a better position to pick up his pawns. Anyway, that's not what happens. This is what happens instead. This is how it gets traded. And I actually can't stop the pawns from pushing because his bishop is super powerful, and I lose. Again, endgame stuff that I should study more of, you know? But staring into a pawn wasn't a great idea. Here I have Sicilian Beauty. Look at all those book moves. I feel like a god. The knights are super powerful here to attack and fork. Sometimes your opponent will push you back, so the idea here is if he attacks here, you could check, and the knight isn't as active, but your queen is in a very annoying spot where the king can't castle in the Sicilian. So instead of that, he blocks, you know, he pushes this pawn, which is the right thing to do, and my knight is pushed back, but the knights kind of could work together on the same side, which is why it's kind of cool. Here I make all the best moves, surprisingly. And here I don't make the best moves, but I have this idea of rerouting the knights to go towards that direction. Now, the king was able to castle, so it's not as powerful, but it is an annoying thing. It's an outpost, right? And if he takes here, I create another outpost with my knight there. So it's a very cool stuff. I thought everything here was settled, and I could start attacking on the king's side, which is why you see this. And here I missed this interesting move to bring the queen here. You might think, why is that a good move? Well, let's say he brings the bishop back. That's just mate, right? So let's say he protects the bishop like that. That looks kind of bad. You know, I could probably even do this, and that's mate. So he's going to lose the bishop, I think. Maybe I'm missing something. Anyway, I don't see that. I attack the bishop, and again, I make a bishop stare into a pawn. It's one of my favorite things to do. Here he checks me, and I just you know, I was scared of this check coming in. I stared at this position for like 20 seconds, and I moved my king aside. I could have just taken it. Now, taking with the queen, not good. This is what I saw. This is what I was scared of. Taking with the king, better. This, boom. I didn't see this stuff. Maybe I was scared of something like the bishop coming in. This is a possibility. But the bishop and knight can't come in fast enough. Or maybe I was scared of the queen coming in. Also a possibility. But, wow, I even had this. And I'm assuming I could even take here. And there's even this move, which I actually find later on in the game. Anyway, instead of complicating matters, I move my king aside. We start trading stuff. I bring the rook, like I said before. And then I get this beautiful fork. and he resigned. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, sometimes you miss beautiful moves even when you blunder. I was trying to have this really powerful attack, and I saw this, and shit, I'm kind of losing. 2 rooks and a bishop against the queen, kind of losing. But I thought it was cool to get rid of a queen. Anyway, he brings his bishop instead. Why is this a blunder? Well, I thought, oh, now this is great. I got rid of his queen. But wait, my queen is gone. This is a blunder because I could just take with the rook and my queen is defending it. I just completely missed this fact. And here, this looks nice because I have, I think, 2 extra pawns here. So that was my plan. I was sacrificing a lot of stuff, trying to break into the position and push these pawns during this game. I didn't see that. Instead, the game progresses like this. And, you know, I try to break through. And I think he blunders at one point. Yeah, loses a rook. Look how beautiful this is. But my opponent played super fast. I'm telling you, when people play fast, at least for me, it gets in my head. I've mentioned this before. It gets in my head. He played super fast. I didn't know how to deal with it. He got into the position. I let him because my king wasn't there to defend, which wasn't good. And he started eating all my pawns. And listen, when you go 75 games into a game, you're going to draw it. Or blunder. Let's speak about that. Move 81 in this game. My opponent blunders. Oh, wait, that's not my opponent. That's me. 81 moves into the game, and there's this blunder. And that's it. I try to save myself, but there was nothing I could do. I end up losing. It just happens sometimes. Remember not being aggressive enough. Remember opponent playing too fast and not developing pieces. This was a very frustrating game. So my opponent, this is going over the stuff I was talking about. My opponent played the Scandinavian and basically brought no pieces to the party. So I know I'm winning. But I don't know how to convert it because I'm not aggressive enough. And because look, he's playing super fast. It's pissing me off. So I make a lot of mistakes, but I missed this very cool move. He can't take because I could do this and the bishop covers the rook, right? It's pinning it. The queen can't move. I don't do that. Instead, I go for this check, calculating this stuff, and then I realize I don't have anything. But I'm so pissed that he's playing fast and I can't break through the position that I take here, which is just a blunder. It's just a bad move. And I have to keep an eye on the e1 square or other squares because my king could get mated. So this is what ends up happening. I try to save my bishop, but I can't. And at this point, I just surrender. I was so annoyed. So annoyed. By the way, if I lose 2 games in a row, I take a break. All right? But that was the first game I lost. So I was still salty from before, and this happens in an even game. I just blunder my bishop, and I resigned. I took a break. You know, this is my previous video. The biggest mistake, the thing that a lot of us make, we just keep playing when we're on a losing streak because we're like, oh, just won. We just need to win. I feel like our brains aren't there, at least for me. Gotta take a break. So I took a break. After 2 losses. And then I do this. Maybe I didn't take a big enough break, right? I'm winning here. Yeah, it's not a clear win. It's not very clear how the position is, but I'm more developed. You know, it looks very nice. And I blunder my queen. And you know what? It's because of my 2 loss rule of taking a break after 2 losses, and I already took the break. I played another game, and here I got lucky. I went into the Sicilian, and for some reason I make this mistake a lot, where I forget to defend first before continuing my plans. Defend this pawn. I check. Thankfully, my opponent doesn't realize he could do this, which I would have felt like was super losing. And I go for this trade, and I'm able to defend my pawn. So I get super lucky here. I break into the position, and then I get this nice fork a few moments later, and I got lucky. Sadness. This is sadness. I broke into the position, pushed pawns, and I had no way of realizing the checkmate pattern. If you guys see the checkmate pattern, good job. I did not see it. This is move 29 in the game. I'm scared of this. I start calculating, and again, my opponent's playing fast, 8 minutes. Maybe I should play 15-minute games only. Anyway, he can come here checking me. And if I go here, check, and I go here, I start calculating this stuff, and I'm like, oh, this looks so crazy. I need to check him. I need to continuously check him. I thought I need to stop him from escaping. What I didn't realize is this leads to a mate. I was about to say mate threat, but it's not a threat. It is a mate. Because of this stops the escape square for the king. After he goes to f4, which is the only move that doesn't lose immediately, then I have check, sacking a rook, okay, to then check. And after, no matter where he moves, here or there, I have the queen coming in. So the queen just plays like a god. Instead of all that, I check again with my rook. The game is even, and then I trade queens because I'm scared of his rook, and he picks up a pawn, which, you know, scares me. I try to break into the position, and that's it. I'm done for, because he could check me here while promoting, and I just completely miss it. It was still a neutral game. I completely miss it because he's still playing fast. He has 8 minutes. I have 2 minutes left. 3 minutes left. Very, very frustrating, and I love that. Now, the next game, I played terribly, okay? But I flagged my opponent. So I won. And that's the thing, like, playing fast is a psychological effect, you know? That works. Sometimes I do it, and I'm victim to it a lot. But, yeah, sometimes it works. This position was beautiful for tactics, potential tactics, which was what I mentioned earlier. If you develop your pieces, sometimes you could get into really nice situations, and this is an example of that. So I didn't play the best moves. You could see I have a small advantage, and then I make this inaccurate move because he could just take the knight and open up the position, I guess. Anyway, he attacks with the pawn, and I see this kind of cute little thing of checking. And I'm thinking, I have now more pieces closer. It doesn't mean, oh, you're winning, right? The engine will tell you, oh, this is even, whatever. But humans aren't engines. Just like when you play fast, or when you play 80 moves in an intense game and you blunder. This person blundered. He blundered because I had this beautiful move. You know, one might think, oh, you have this move, but no. That doesn't work because then you just trade and your bishop is there alone, not doing much. And actually you get mated. And I saw this mate threat because the rook and queen work together. I knew how precarious, how crazy this position is. So I moved the knight here. Because now I'm forking the rook and queen. So he's gonna lose one of them. Mind you, I didn't think, oh, I'm gonna win this game. This was very tense. But the point is, I was able to do that because I was more aggressive, you know? Anyway, and I got more pieces into the game. He just pushes a pawn, and this is the big point. Blundered a queen. 1570 rated player, almost a 1600 rated player, blundered a queen. So it just goes to show that, you know, you could do these tricks on lots of different types of people. So that was kind of cool. Here we had a lot of one-move blunders from me and my opponent. I feel like this is a theme sometimes. I was not in the best position, or I felt like I wasn't. And my opponent pushes a pawn, just completely disregarding his bishop. And then resigns before I could even take it. There's 8 minutes, 30 seconds left. He's playing fast, you know? Faster than me, and yeah. Now, remember we talked about playing fast to win? Of course you do. I've mentioned it a billion times. I make the same mistake of not bringing the knight here. Apparently the bishop here is also an option. I never knew that. I always thought that protecting with the knight and pushing with the knights is the way to go. But now the engine is telling me the bishop is the way to go. Maybe there's different variations, and that's what it is, just depending on how your opponent develops and stuff. Anyway, I come here and I mess up. And my opponent sees my mess up. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play fast to try to get everything back. My opponent kind of helps me develop my pieces. And so I feel like I have a chance. And I play really fast. You see, I have 9 minutes, 30 seconds. I play really fast. I'm trying to threaten this. And maybe even push this pawn to kick the knight out. Which isn't really smart, because it's going to be a weakness later, and he could kind of easily defend against the checkmate threat. The one-move threat. One-move threat's generally not the best thing. Anyway, I play super fast, and my opponent takes some time. He has 6 minutes, 30 seconds. I have a 9 minutes, 9 seconds. I have 8 minutes, 51 seconds. And my opponent resigns. My opponent resigns in a winning game. I couldn't tell you why they resigned. Maybe they thought that... No, I actually don't know. I don't know why they resigned here. Maybe they thought after their knight moves back, I'm winning. Like, this knight is not really doing anything right now. It is an annoying knight to deal with. But you could even push this pawn and have eyes on it, potentially. Not right now because of the rook. Maybe he thought after this, what do I do? That's a possibility. I mean, this kind of just solves all his issues, I feel like. But, yeah, it just goes to show you how effective of a weapon that is in chess. Here we had a very pretty game. I don't really see this much where the knight comes in like that. And apparently the bishop move was better. But yeah, my opponent blunders because of check, which allows me to capture his knight. And I say it's a beautiful game, but I mean, I was lucky that he made so many mistakes. I don't know. He must have been playing on tilt because these types of mistakes were crazy. And I see this move as a potential mate later on, but... And I'm also aware of this move, which looks super scary. And he plays it, which is why I was so proud of myself for finding this. The bishop covers the knight, and this is scary because it pins the queen. I can't move my queen out of the way. I'm going to lose my queen if I take, or if I leave it there. I check, which gives me the mate. This is so cool. And the knight blocks any attacks. The best move was probably to take. And then take, and then I don't know, but it doesn't matter because this was made in 8, and we don't need to go over that. And sometimes you make attacks where there are none, and it's not smart. And this is what I tried to do here. I don't understand this. I'm actually gonna write a note to study this one of these days. I don't have much time today, but maybe another day. Maybe you guys could help me in the comments too. I don't understand how to attack with pawns. How to do a pawn storm. I don't know how to effectively do that. Like, assuming my rook was even safe here, which pawn is best to push? I thought this pawn initially, but then I thought he could just block it. And my bishop could be useful later on, but right now I have bigger problems to worry about, right? So I thought this pawn to just trade everything. And I didn't see a clear line, but I just thought, oh, he's going to have a really weak king. Anyway, he actually takes. He doesn't take my rook. I take back. And he pushes the pawn, and now I'm like, oh my god, I'm so lucky, because I wasn't able to break into the position, and my rook could be saved. I knew that was a bad move, I just thought, and here, I thought I could do something cool. Here, I want to attack the bishop, and basically play it here. Stupid. Stupid. My best move was probably to double rooks and start pushing these pawns, because actually, if I get a rook to the back row, it's mate. This covers. My queen could give check from here, could give check from this diagonal, basically. So I'm assuming that was the plan. But instead I do this, and I just blunder a pawn, and I'm forced backwards. And you could see very easily how the position just becomes very terrible for me. And there's nothing I could do to stop this. And I resign. We're almost done, guys. Doing really good, okay? I can't believe you guys watched this far. Anyway. Now, my opponent plays super fast, 7 minutes, 23 seconds, and of course is beating me because of the psychological aspect of playing super fast, and blunders this, me getting a queen. I was so happy because I was so pissed how fast they were playing, even though I do it sometimes too. And here, I find the perfect moves. This deflects the king away from the protection of the rook, allowing me to come in, and I could even give up my queen and push forward. And that was my plan. That was my plan. And you could see here, a few moves later, my opponent just resigns. Here we have an interesting mistake, which a lot of chess is about pattern recognition. So if you recognize the patterns, if you play enough games, if you do enough puzzles, you'll know how to counter certain ideas. So I learned here how to counter this idea. I thought the only way to save this rook is to move the knight for some reason. If I took here, okay, and let's say he took, it looks like he's attacking my rook, I have this move. What a beautiful move. And let's say he comes in with a check. I don't take back because I still lose the rook, right? I just move my king to the side. to the side that still attacks the bishop, right? And you might think, but wait, he's gonna attack your king with a discovered check. Well, then he's losing the game. So very, very interesting stuff. A pattern that I feel like comes up enough, but like that I've made mistakes in the past on them, but I didn't know how to deal with it, and this is the best way I found to deal with it. Basically pushing the pawn, the d pawn, because that's a typical pattern with the bishop knight attack. And now my knight is, you know, was pinned, and it's not looking very good. And I actually break into the position. I think I had a chance once in this game to do something, and I just completely mess it up. Here's an interesting thing. The game is almost even. How crazy is that? And here the idea is to come here to put targets here. If he comes here, now I could push the pawn, and I'm close to promoting. And to be honest, I don't know. I don't know the rest of this. I didn't, you know. Wow. Here, because after this, I could take with the knight and promote. That is crazy. That is crazy. So the idea is after this, okay, maybe not. You know, I thought that worked. But after this, takes. If he takes, he's bad, right? It's bad. Oh, I guess he could just take like that. Yeah, never mind. Still interesting. I get rid of his rook. I suppose I could have kept the pressure. This is a discovered attack. Whatever. It's a little complicated, but yeah. And the last game. 1 minute move, okay? I spent 1 minute on this move. And I knew after I made it. Yeah, I'm starting to get that intuition. You know? In chess, there's also this, in life, there's an intuitive feel to things. And I felt intuitively that this wasn't that good of a move. Because I didn't know exactly why, but I knew it wasn't that good. I liked my bishop here because it stopped the rook from coming in. And I was exactly right. Here he pins my bishop, which, by the way, is not really pinned because my rook protects. I could probably just bring this back and the game continues. If takes, he can't take. Well, if he takes, I was about to say he gets mated, but he doesn't. But if he takes, he just loses a rook. Stupid me. I make a hole for my king. I move my queen aside that way, which is too slow, I think. And then I blunder. And here I have 44 seconds on the time, so I try to flag. Okay? He checks, I take. He checks, I move aside. He checks, I come here, and this was the blunder. The blunder was with all those checks, he could take the bishop. But I need my queen to survive, so I do it this way. And we keep playing, and he blunders his bishop. He blunders his bishop, making it a neutral game again. There's 32 seconds against 30 seconds. I have 28 seconds left. My opponent spent a lot of time, down to 20 seconds. I'm kind of casually playing at this point. I was laying back. My hand was on the mouse, but I was laying back. And then I'm like, shit, wait, this is actually really close, because I thought I was going to lose. And I go for the checks. I'm like, I have to keep checking. Because when you check, if you want to pre-move and you can't go there, then, you know, that works. But also the queen could take my queen, and I can't let that happen, because if that happens, he could start checking me, and I'll probably lose on time. So I keep checking, being mindful of where the queen is, and I'm down to 9.7 seconds against 6.1. Now I try to sit up, but my hand kind of shakes because I was sitting up, and I take an extra second too long to make a move. And now it's 5.5 seconds, but my opponent came back. And I'm forced to take here. And now I'm just moving my king back and forth, and he's able to just easily queen. And I run out of time with my opponent having 2.5 seconds. That game, ladies and gentlemen, was the second loss in a row in a while, which means I had to stop playing. Not only that, it was like 11:58 p.m. The last game of the day. And I was triggered. I was on tilt. So thanks for watching this far, guys. Write 44 in the comments if you got this far. And yeah, I'm rated 1556. It feels like I can't break 1600, but that's okay. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.